Welcome to Wine by the Case.
where we uncork legal insights one bottle at a time. Sometimes a good bottle, sometimes a not so good bottle. It all depends on the luck of the draw sometimes. But we've got part two today, part two.
So, we're going to dive a little more into the Lindsay Clancy case because all of the world is really kind of riveted by this case for various reasons, and it brings up a lot of different topics.
It does. And one of the things that we mentioned in the last one was, we're dealing with the court. I brought this so she could try it, bought another bottle for $10.99 of tribunal. She's in court, but she's also very much facing, whether she knows it or not, the rest of us do, the court of public opinion. And that court of public opinion
She's winning that.
is giving a lot of attention to the issue, what we really want to talk about today, postpartum depression. And there's just, and if you don't know, the actress Hayden Panettiere actually died recently as well, not from that, but apparently a heart issue. But she had actually given up her own child to her ex-husband because postpartum depression was so bad for her for years that she wasn't functioning. So I want to talk about the postpartum depression. We can maybe get into some of the insanity defense, but more about what people are commenting on, because this is bringing up an issue that hasn't gotten as much attention because it's supposed to be, oh, you give birth, it's wonderful, it's fabulous. And people are like, oh my God, I'm not feeling the way society thinks I should feel, or I've been told I'm going to feel. So I think it's a lot to take in. And I think at a minimum, people are talking about it. They're talking about a lot.
So it is definitely bringing light to a major issue of postpartum. And, it also brings light to other things like how it's perceived. And I think part of the perception for postpartum, along with other ailments that only women have, that there's a lot of people, and there's been talk about this. And I think it's going to come out more in the civil case, Lindsay Clancy civil case, that medical professionals maybe are not taking it seriously, and that is creating other issues because you brought that up. And as well as it's also brought to light maybe the bias having to outside of gender. Now we get into race, like how it's perceived opposed to, let's gloss over it, a white woman coming in and saying in middle class that, oh, I'm depressed, when from all outside optics, she has a beautiful family, not having financial strain, no food and, insecurity, all of the things, as opposed to that maybe we have an African-American woman who isn't. And also the ability to even get medical care because mental health care.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we deal with the African-American female bias during pregnancy a lot too, of no, that's not a problem. Oh, that's not an issue. Shouldn't be feeling that. So yeah, I think some of the race issues associated with pregnancy and birth are also coming to light in some of this. But to me, when we're looking at, again, we're not there, but we are hearing what some of the testimony was about, and the fact that she's telling medical professionals.
Oh, no. She was there. This is such a clear case because, like I was saying, a lot of times, like you could have people of lower socioeconomic, they're not getting mental health, or there's a stigma, cultural stigma related to it. She, in this case, and that is even different from Andrea Yates, the mother that years ago, Andrea Yates killed all 5 of her children. So she wasn't really going and seeing professional mental health. Here, we have someone that was under treatment by multiple mental health, checked herself in, had called the suicide helpline, and was on, by the way, I'm just going to say it, a freaking truckload of medication.
Yeah, it didn't seem like people were coordinating care for her because, we deal with a lot in the law of people who are drug seeking. And they'll go from doctor to doctor trying to get another prescription for oxy and things like that. The psychotropics she was being prescribed for depression, they don't necessarily make you feel good. They have all sorts of different side effects with them. But the fact that she was being given the dosages that we would, and we're not doctors, we're lawyers, but we look at those numbers and go, wow, that seems like a lot.
Well, it was overprescribing the individual one is the combination and switching her because they weren't working. But also one of the things that came out in testimony that just had me mad as hell was in the initial, one of the initial psychiatrists when they were trying to get her to take, I believe it was Zoloft, and she was hesitant because remember she's a nurse. She was hesitant because she was like of all the side effects. giving her pushback. And it made me mad because it's like they were like taking it as a negative that she was refusing to do what they wanted her to do.
Mhm.
But what they were having her do in the end wasn't the correct thing. And I just want to say you always have to advocate for yourself. And I've even found, among other things, how I represent healthcare providers. And I can tell you that when I go in, and I have a lot of knowledge, and Chris too, about the law and about various things, and we research it because that's kind of what we do
built
for
that way. We're hardwired that way.
kind of do that for a living. And I can say that I've been in a doctor's office myself, and I've been asking questions, and I'm getting pushback from them, and I'm getting that they're slightly annoyed, and my son-in-law said, "Oh, they probably marked your file that you're difficult." And here's the thing: you have to advocate for yourself.
You do.
You have to, and you can't just take that some doctor, because this one in particular that was on the stand, she had literally been out of residency I think 30 days, right? So you can't just automatically assume that they're like all knowing,
And beyond the all knowing, when you have someone who is clinically, they aren't necessarily taking in information the same way that someone like right now, us being lively and interested and animated, they aren't taking it. Their senses are dulled. Everything is dulled. And especially if they were already on a medication that has been working, and you're asking that person to then tell me how you feel. Well, I feel like shit. I mean, how else do you get more detailed when you're clinically depressed? You're not really responding to stimuli in the same way. I mean, that's just common for depression. But the fact that she is reaching out for help repeatedly and sort of getting it's okay, sweetie, it'll get better, just give it time.
I don't think they were doing that because...
Well, they're giving her meds, but...
They were giving her meds, so there wasn't like they were at least saying that's in your head, go away, whatever. They were... Listen, I think what they did, the little bit I know, because I haven't reviewed all the medicals, obviously, was horrible. I think the licensing boards really need to look at it. I think that the whole facility needs to be looked at, just from the little knowledge I have. But I think what this is going to, and I want to bring this up. So with the civil case, they have hired this badass attorney. Okay. This woman, she is not a med mal attorney, which what I thought, she is not. She is burned down the system and we're rebuilding it. So Let me just give you a background about her. She was the one that made the whole federal sentencing go from not being mandatory. That was her.
Okay.
She also was the one, Sean Ellis, that got him. There's a documentary on Netflix called Trial Number 4, got him acquitted, and it was all police corruption that they were setting it up. She is not coming into that case, or nor has she been hired to come in to prove simple medical malpractice on that case. That's not her. Okay. And by the way, most of her cases have to do with corruption and usually on the criminal end. So I'm telling you right now, that's going to get heated. And I'm excited to see everything that she's going to uncover. And I hope to God that doesn't settle ahead of time. I hope to God that they end up trying that case. But
we deal with, let's face it too, we deal with insurance issues. We deal with, we'll cover this, we won't cover that. And then there's you have to try this prescription and fail it before they sometimes give you another one.
But we haven't even gotten to the insurance. This just seemed, so I don't know if you're aware of this, because she actually tried to go into a program that was specific for postpartum. And she went to, I don't know if it was an inpatient, but she went to go start the program. And they said that she had so much medication that they were afraid that they wouldn't let her in the program, because they said that they were thinking that her side effects were because of the mixing, the shit truckload. I'm not even going to say a cocktail, because when we think of cocktail, we think of something pleasant. And this is freaking not pleasant, right? So the truckload of medications, they thought that she was having negative reaction or withdrawal or whatever, complications, whatever you want to put on from them, that they were like, we don't even know if this at this point is postpartum. And even if it is postpartum, our program isn't going to help, because we got to first figure this truckload of freaking medication situation out, and they rejected her from it. So, and by the way, that still didn't make these prescribing doctors go.
And again, what is just so difficult for me about this case is what happened was beyond terrible. We're not saying there's an excuse for it, but the fact that this
we
person,
kind of are.
what we're saying,
we're not saying it's justified, but we are saying that there is an explanation and an excuse for it. She does have an excuse, but for
postpartum psychosis in this case on top of it. But the fact that this has been going on, frankly, for centuries for women, and people have ignored it, and we're having these conversations, and again, instead of necessarily just throwing medication at people, what is it that we as a American society can do as compared to what they do in Europe, which is where they do get support after giving birth? They get actual help. I mean, when you think of the notion of they give you this tiny little thing and tell you it's going to be okay and you're in capable hands, you're like, I don't know what to do here. You don't get to shower. You don't get to bathe. You don't get to do laundry. You're just constantly addressing the needs of this little tiny, tiny, tiny baby.
Well, that was the other thing that was brought up during the trial was the lack of sleep. Even lack of sleep without postpartum or anything else can actually trigger hallucination.
Or torture. I mean, Guantanamo and things like that. Sleep deprivation is a known way to get people to get into a psychotic state. So I look at all this and go, how on earth can you address this in a criminal trial? How on earth can you address it as a society? But I
think we are addressing it in a criminal trial. The problem, and this particular episode, we really didn't want to get into the insanity related to postpartum, and more the fact that this was horrible. We have 3 dead children, but the fact that it is bringing light, major exposure to issues that I feel like women have been screaming from the top of the mountain. I think that I don't have the exact statistics, but many women for different degrees suffer from postpartum. And a lot of times, this is just to the extreme. A lot of times it is swept under the rug, or they don't even know what it is. They may not even know it's postpartum. They may just think, especially if they're a first time mom, I just am a horrible mom, or I don't really like my kid, but that's not really the situation. And then it snowballs. And I think sometimes it does resolve itself on its own. It's not to this extreme, but getting into the medication and not throwing meds at it, I agree with you. I think there is a difference between something that needs and neither one of us are doctors, okay, but something that needs medication because it's a chemical issue in your body. And the doctor, if I'm saying this wrong, please comment below, but opposed to a situational stress thing that maybe there's other avenues, but also those medications, cause and effects. They have a lot of those have what's called black box warnings.
Yes.
Do you want to tell them what that means?
That means it could result in death.
Black box death, yes. A higher probability that it could make someone suicidal, which, by the way, means they need extra monitoring.
And if you hear all the commercials, especially during Sunday football, and suicidal ideation. I mean, I can't tell you how many of them say that.
I like the ones where they're like, your penis is going to fall off or something. Like, you're sitting there like, wait, what?
They're saying it so fast, but there is.
You can hear the penis falls off.
Well, that's because it's a main thing, not a girl thing. So, but one of the other things back to
it's an end death.
Yes.
You're like, wait a second. I just had a small rash on my arm. I don't understand.
And then you go on the internet, you're dying from dengue fever. But
what that happened to my sister? Her tongue turned like purple one day. And she's like, goes on the internet and she calls me up and she's like, I'm dying of whatever. And I'm like, what? I go, what do you mean? You think I don't remember what's
you go down that rabbit hole.
You think you have what? And she's like, I'm dying. I'm just telling you, I'm going to go. She's going through this whole thing. So I'm like, okay, I think we're jumping to conclusions here. Why don't we go to the doctor? Like, I think we should go to because if you really are dying, you should probably go to the doctor, right? So I convinced her to go to the doctor, and apparently she had taken too much Benadryl.
Oh,
apparently, if you take too much Benadryl, your tongue can turn black or purple or whatever.
But that notion of it, you've heard the phrase, it takes a village, especially when somebody's given birth and it's overwhelming and you're exhausted, you're nervous.
Well, and she had 2 other ones.
2 other children.
Right.
And not everyone has the advantage of having family nearby. We're a global society.
Sometimes you don't want family nearby.
I can understand that.
Sometimes that's not helpful.
It may not be, but
Her mother was nearby. Yeah.
but even then, when you think about when we've had friends who've given birth, the first thing you do is you start the meal train. You have someone go over and help with laundry. You do things to help that person because it's about the baby, but it's also about the mom who's in this state of, oh my God, feels like a failure for everything. And again, don't bathe for days. It's rough. So to have people who can come in and support you, but you've got 2 other kids and that's the third one. Not many people want to jump in to try and help you. And that's why I appreciate some of the Scandinavian countries that have that person who comes in and does the laundry and does some meal prep and things like that to take some of that of, oh my God, my other children are starving because I can't deal with feeding them. There's all sorts of things that are, I think, coming to light as people are openly talking about postpartum through this tragedy. But at the same time, it's important that these conversations are happening. So maybe, just maybe, instead of researching just, well, what meds do we have? Because meds can be very helpful. What other support is it that we can have from a whole patient?
Yeah, I don't think as a country we're getting. When people think of crazy people or insane people, I shouldn't use the word crazy, but insane because we're talking, she's not guilty, she by reason of insanity. They think of something out of a movie, right? We think of schizophrenia. Yes. We think of people talking to them, acting extremely erratic. And I think another reason why it's hard in this case to connect postpartum psychosis to insanity to the degree to kill your own children is because doesn't present. In other words, we have videos of her at some sort of a museum with her kids. We have her playing in the snow with her kids on the day of the incident. We have her on the phone calmly, correctly, no red flags, ordering food. It doesn't present that way. And I think that is a hard thing.
It is.
Because and it's hard for doctors too, because,
Right. They see what they perceive as normal. And again, that's a wide spectrum, but they perceive behavior that looks like it's within the bounds of society's expectations of, okay, she's doing okay. And then all of a sudden you're not. Grabbed the last something at a store in front of you. You have that instant but you have to remember, you know what? Maybe they're going through stuff you don't know about. So, when
what are they grabbing the last of that you get mad about, Chris?
It's cheese.
So I have to tell you, when I first moved to Boca when I was in my 20s,
cottage cheese.
Wait, I'm going to tell you about somebody grabbing something. When I first moved to Boca Raton in my 20s from Fort Lauderdale, and I went to the grocery store and I went to go get like a rotisserie chicken in Publix. And this pink-haired old lady went up and ripped the chicken that was in my hand and said that one is hers. There were other chickens. That was not the last chicken, by the way. And I was like, what the heck just freaking happened?
Yeah.
And then she proceeded, when she was pulling away, to hit me with the cart. Okay. So I left the store crying.
Trying to figure out what you've done.
No, because that's on 17th Street Causeway where men were picking me up in the wine aisle. It really wasn't. I was trying to be. I was like, where the hell am I?
Exactly. You're in the Twilight Zone now.
I'm like, I am fighting over a chicken. But no, to make jest of it, you're correct. They say that if somebody comes at you and
it's about them, it's not about you.
And it's not like you're in an argument or whatever with them, but out of the blue, it's about them, not you. And you just need to realize that.
And I try to remember, because again, when you're in line at Trader Joe's getting wine, you don't know what the person in front of you is going through. So occasionally have that little bit of grace.
Well, that's what Robin Williams said. There's a quote from Robin Williams that he said, you never know what someone's really going through.
You don't. And so that notion of, we all have our, but why they do that to me? And the answer is they didn't. They did it to whoever was standing there. So,
that's hard. That's hard for us because we're going through our own stuff. But let's talk about
let's talk about it, because I'd said on part 1 that this
you know what, this smells like bad grape juice.
It does smell like bad grape juice.
It's really sweet.
But I haven't tasted this bottle yet, but the reviews about it say it's really, really sweet. But
really
again,
pruning.
You have to judge it for a $10.99.
Can we put
something in it?
Well, I saw Tom Hanks I don't drink. I'm not a Diet Coke drinker, but I know y'all love your Diet Cokes. But I don't like artificial sweetener taste. But Maybe if we
know-
put Diet Coke in it.
You know what? This would make a fabulous sangria. This would be a fabulous sangria because it's got that hint it's not just a hint of sweetness, it's a lot of sweetness. Little brandy and a couple cherries in it.
This would make a good sangria, but I also think that maybe we should pour Diet Coke and try the Tom Hanks thing to see if that works.
It can make it better because, again, for what it is, for $10.99, it's drinkable.
Yeah.
Again, I go with my 5 rating for a $10.99 because it's not vinegary, it's not that taste, but it would make a hell of a good sangria.
But if you comment below, tell us what you think, and Chris and I really are interested in hearing on what side of the fence you are about Lindsay Clancy, whether you think, I've been hearing some people think she should be entirely acquitted. Obviously, some people think, and I've been hearing a lot of that. Some people are on the fence that no, she killed her 3 kids. I don't care why.
Right.
And then some people think, yeah, I definitely think it was by reason of insanity, and I don't want her out walking around.
You still got the other people who go, oh no, she's a liar. She's faking it. She's trying to get out. You've got that contingency too.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You have the people that want her to go away forever, and they believe that she killed her kids, and they believe it was planned and it was intentional, and all of that as well. So we're interested in hearing. I'm interested in what Chris says, but from what I've heard, and the defense just started. So based on the prosecution's case, and also I can't just say that because obviously we've been tracking online as well. But I'm inclined to think it was by reason of, not guilty, by reason of insanity. I don't know what Chris.
No, I'm definitely getting that from.
Are you playing Switzerland and you're not going to give us a guess?
I do think she should be not guilty by reason of insanity based on the evidence presented.
What do you think the jury? And I know, like, some attorneys hate this. I hate being put on the spot when they'll ask me on live TV, Alexis, tell us what you think.
Yeah.
Because I also am like, I don't know. Part of me is like, well, you should let some people keep that dream alive. Giving the cliffhanger, right?
Right.
Spoiler alert. Yeah. He's got to be found guilty.
Yeah.
So, but tell me what you do. What do you think the jury's going to do? Not just what you think should happen.
But I think the jury is seeing a distraught woman.
Right. Normally, we don't have somebody in a wheelchair. Normally, you do not have somebody sitting there in a wheelchair.
And again, she gets very emotional. They had the whole scene.
I think it's authentic.
Yeah, where she started sobbing because she's hearing about the autopsy reports of her children suffering. And I don't believe she's making that up. I think she would, as her own attorney said, she'd rather die right now. She does not want to.
I think that if she got acquitted and
she'd commit suicide, she'd make it work this time.
I think that she would. I do, unless they put her in. Her family had her committed, and she was on suicide watch. I think that would ultimately happen.
I think she'd get herself to Oregon, wait 2 weeks, and take the pills.
Because, but what do you think the jury's going to do? If you had to guess,
I think the jury
don't play Switzerland.
I'm not. I think the jury may acquit her because they're seeing it.
Totally.
Because they're seeing it and they're hearing all the information that she tried to get the help, and the people who tried to help her didn't.
That wouldn't necessarily be acquittal. That would go along with the fact that there's so many inconsistencies that continue to come out. They have saying they went not guilty by reason of insanity. One of the things is that there's a lot of inconsistencies because they're putting on all these things, and now the defense is really tearing that evidence apart, that it's not making sense. Like, I know in our last one, and we don't want it to go on too long, but Chris was fixated on the watch. So there was testimony that the watch, the plot thickens. Okay. It wasn't simply it was in the drawer, because the watch, her heart the last heart rate was like at 50, and it stopped at, I think, don't hold me this, I know you guys will come for me, I think it was at 5:23, but then the watch was still moving without no heartbeat until 5:28.
Okay.
So there are all these little inconsistencies. For instance, there were these bag of pills, but then the bag of pills that were allegedly where they were not in the photographs when the police took the photographs. And I do think, and that's coming out opposed to what we're all talking about on the internet in front of the jury. I do, and that's what reasonable doubt is.
Right.
You just keep putting these inconsistencies of it not necessarily adding up.
And that's the jury's job is to look at it and go, did you prove it beyond the reasonable doubt. So all these inconsistencies to me add up.
Yeah, but I don't know how a watch would move if
Right.
somebody's wearing it
Right.
with no heartbeat,
Right.
but it's moving,
Right.
unless somebody's holding that watch
And
for 5 minutes.
well, and again, I don't know a single person with an Apple Watch who does not live with that watch.
Well, Chris and I disagree. I could see somebody taking off. They wanted to slit their wrist where the watch was. But I do understand putting it in the drawer and blah, blah, blah. Oh, also, they were the blood spatter. There are some issues with the blood splatter because they weren't apparently tested to make sure they were human or something like that. I didn't watch that test. But once again, inconsistency after inconsistency. And you're talking about convicting someone of or finding them not guilty of murder of 3 children. So you kind of want to make sure that that stuff
adds up.
The math is mathing. All right. I am going to give this a 1. Maybe if you throw some fruit in it.
Again, for what it is, I think, again, you can give it a 5.
Not really drinkable, Chris.
But for a $10 bottle of wine, it's much more drinkable.
No, maybe if you turn it into a sangria.
We're
going to put Diet Coke in it. I just don't have any.
Would I drink it by itself? Again, no.
I wouldn't drink this.
But I would put some brandy and some oranges and cherries in it. Make a nice sangria.
Well, you go try that and you give us a follow-up whether that fixed this chain wreck. What are you giving it?
I said for a $10.99 wine, I'm giving it a 5 because it's not vinegary, it's not tanniny, it's not that, some of that you get that nasty funk.
Yeah, it doesn't have, well, it's got a little prune. But
yeah, but again, for prune,
cheers.
It's for that. Cheers.